You know what's strange? Everyone tells you to live in the present. Stop worrying about tomorrow, stay in the moment. You've heard it 1,000 times from 1,000 different accounts. Doesn't work though. Not really. Right now, some part of your head is probably already dreading a meeting that hasn't even happened yet. Or maybe you sent a text an hour ago, still no reply. And somehow, you've already drafted the entire breakup speech. There's a doctor's appointment next week too, for something completely routine, and by 2:00 AM you've quietly diagnosed yourself with something terminal. Not because there's actual evidence, just because your brain decided to run with it. None of this has happened. Some of it never will. But your body's reacting like it's happening right now anyway. So why? Why does the brain do this, drag you into a future that doesn't exist, make you sit through disasters that might never arrive, and act like it's doing you a favor the whole time? Psychologists actually have a term for it: anticipatory anxiety fear, directed at something that hasn't happened, instead of something that's actually in front of you. But there's a more specific pattern underneath it, something cognitive therapists call fortune telling. Exactly what it sounds like. Your brain takes a guess about tomorrow and hands it to you as a fact. Not this might go badly, just this will go badly. No trial, straight to sentencing. Here's the part that's genuinely unsettling if you sit with it for a second. Your nervous system can't really tell the difference between a threat that's actually happening and one you're just picturing. Imagine yourself embarrassing yourself in front of a room tomorrow, vividly enough, and your body releases real stress hormones tonight. The event doesn't need to happen. You pay for it either way. Why would a brain be built like this? For that, we need to go looking at the amygdala, a small, almond-shaped chunk of brain tissue whose entire job is scanning for threats. The problem is, it doesn't scan very well. It can't tell the difference between something that's actually dangerous and something that just feels dangerous, so it fires the same alarm either way. A real emergency gets the exact same reaction as a text you haven't sent yet. Normally, there's a system in place to catch that overreaction. The prefrontal cortex, the reasoning part of your brain, is supposed to step in and say, okay, let's actually think about this. The odds of this ruining your life are pretty low. Except when the amygdala floods your system with cortisol and adrenaline. It can actually quiet the prefrontal cortex down, which means the more anxious you get, the worse your brain gets at talking you out of it. The smoke detector is screaming louder, and the voice trying to explain it's just toast is getting harder to hear. This isn't a glitch, by the way. It's an old setting that used to work in our favor. For most of human history, assuming the worst kept people alive. The guy who heard a rustle in the grass and assumed predator over wind was more likely to survive than the one who shrugged it off. Evolution rewarded paranoia, because being wrong about danger cost a lot more than being wrong about safety. Problem is, your brain never updated the list. Still running on 10,000-year-old software, except now, the predator in the grass got replaced with an unread message, a performance review, or a call from a number you don't recognize. And even once you know all this, even once you can name the mechanism, you still can't just think your way out of it most of the time. There's a second piece working against you, and it has nothing to do with danger. It has to do with how memory actually works. It's called negativity bias. Your brain gives more emotional weight to bad information than to good information of equal size. One harsh comment outweighs 5 compliments without even trying. One awkward exchange can quietly ruin an entire good day. Researchers who've looked into this keep finding the same pattern negative experiences get processed more deeply, remembered longer, and replayed more often. Almost like your brain files them under important by default. There's a related thing too, called the availability heuristic. Basically, your brain judges how likely something is by how easily it can picture it, not by the actual odds. So if you can vividly imagine freezing up mid-presentation, your brain treats that as highly likely even if, realistically, it's happened to you once, maybe twice, in your whole adult life. Vivid gets mistaken for probable. Put those two together, and you get a brain that's basically running its own 24/7 highlight reel of worst-case scenarios, and it genuinely believes it's showing you a documentary. Spoiler, it's fan fiction. Then there's a third piece, and honestly, this might be the biggest one. Researchers who study anxiety call it intolerance of uncertainty. Most people find not knowing something deeply uncomfortable, sometimes more uncomfortable than knowing something bad is coming. So the moment your brain hits a genuine unknown, an outcome it can't predict, It doesn't just sit there calmly with the "I don't know." It fills the blank in fast with the worst possible answer, because a certain bad outcome somehow feels easier to carry than an uncertain one. Which means, weirdly, you end up living through the bad outcome twice. Once tonight, in full imagined detail. And then, again, if it even happens at all, in reality usually a much less dramatic version than the one your head wrote for you. How anxious you get about the future has a lot to do with what life already taught you to expect. Grow up somewhere unpredictable, where the ground could shift without warning, and your brain adapts by trying to predict every bad outcome in advance. If you can see the disaster coming, some part of you believes you'll be hurt less by it. Except that's not really how it works. You don't get hurt less, you just get hurt earlier, and for longer, because now you're suffering through both the anticipation and the actual event, assuming it even happens. There's a cultural layer that doesn't get talked about enough either. In a culture obsessed with output and achievement, not knowing how something's going to turn out doesn't just feel uncomfortable, it starts to feel like a personal failure. Like a more competent version of you would already have it figured out. So, the anxiety stops being just about the event. It becomes proof, in your own head, that you're somehow behind. Somehow, not enough. Okay, so now you know the mechanism. A smoke detector that can't tell real from imagined. A bias that makes bad stick harder than good. A mind that fills silence with worst-case scenarios just to make the discomfort stop faster. And a life history that sometimes taught you to treat all of that as protection. Or worse, as proof something's wrong with you. Which brings us to the actual question. What do you do about it? First thing, and it's almost embarrassingly simple, check your own track record. Not your imagined odds. Your actual history. Think back to the last handful of things you were sure were going to go badly. The interview, the confrontation, the test result, the deadline. How many of those actually played out the way your anxiety predicted? Most people, when they sit down and actually count, land somewhere close to none. Your anxious predictions have a scorecard, and it's nowhere near as accurate as it feels at 2:0 a.m. That's not a motivational line. Just a fact about your own life that your brain conveniently forgets every single time it needs to. Second thing, learn to sit inside an unfinished scenario instead of automatically filling it with the worst version. When your brain jumps to disaster, the instinct is either to shove the thought away or spiral deeper into it. There's a third move nobody tells you about. Walk the scenario all the way through instead of stopping at the scariest frame. Ask yourself, and if that actually happened, then what would I do next? Most people, when they force themselves past the scary headline into the actual details, find the worst case is uncomfortable, not catastrophic. Your brain loves the trailer. It almost never wants to sit through the whole movie, because the movie's rarely as bad as the preview made it look. Third, give the anxious thoughts an actual appointment instead of unlimited access to your whole day. Pick 15 minutes, same time daily, and that's the only window you allow yourself to really worry. Outside that window, an anxious thought shows up, you don't fight it, don't push it down, just note it, and tell yourself, that's for later. Sounds almost too simple, but it's been used clinically for exactly this reason, because it teaches your nervous system that worry doesn't get to run the whole show uninvited. Fourth, and probably the hardest one, stop treating uncertainty like it's the same thing as danger. It isn't. Most of what scares you isn't the actual outcome, it's the not knowing part. But not knowing is just the normal condition of being alive. Every calm, under-pressure person you've ever admired isn't someone whose brain stopped generating anxious thoughts. They're someone who learned, slowly, painfully, boringly, that they could sit with not knowing and survive it, over and over, until their nervous system finally believed them. The goal was never to shut the what-ifs off completely. A little anticipation keeps you prepared. The real skill is catching the moment your brain slides from caution into fortune-telling, before it drags you all the way down. The fact that you're even here, trying to understand this, instead of just reacting to it, that's your reasoning brain already doing its job. If this helped, hit subscribe and join Brain Psyche for more brain decoding. Keep your mind online, and I'll see you in the next video.